Hi everyone, welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. Following on from the very dramatic Merseyside derby on Wednesday, I'm so happy to say that I've finally got Dee from Back of the Nest back on the channel. Dee, we had about 3 of these last season because we had the 2 games, I think, in like the space of not too long, and then we had the 2 FA Cup ties last year, the last FA Cup replay that Everton or Palace played, but it's also been a long time since we played you. 28th of September. I remember it was Everton's first win of the
Yeah,
season. Um, but you lot look like you were going to be down there with us, but you've decided to turn the gas on, and now you've gone up the table a bit, haven't you?
yeah. Thanks for having me on. As you said, last season, the FA Cup plus the league games, it felt like every other week. At some point, I was talking to you about previews. It was like Palace versus Everton. But yeah, the season. I'll be honest, the season has been a roller coaster. The start of the season was a mess. That game in the reverse fixture. I mean, the first half it was all good for Palace, and the second half we just absolutely crumbled. And that was the start of our season. We couldn't win a game for the first nine. After we beat Tottenham, we've had injuries, we've had players, positions that weren't strengthened enough, and we just had to navigate through the first 3 to 4 months. And then, ever since, to be fair, towards the end of November, um, Palace have finally found their stride. I know I think, sitting 12th right now, which is not like amazing, but we've only lost like 3 games, I think, in the last 3 months. We've had a lot of draws along the way, but we've been finally getting the new players up to speed. Anyways, Glazer did say that he didn't like the timings of our signings because a lot of signings were made on deadline day, and then from there onwards, we've had a few injuries. Adam Walton, for example, has been out. Eze was out at a certain stage. We got red cards with Kamada. It was just a messy start to the season. But now, honestly, as a Palace fan, we're looking at the second half of the season, saying, what can we achieve? What can we do? We're looking at the FA Cup game. We got Millwall, of course, that should be exciting. But we want a good cup run because, of course, Glasner has, in the Bundesliga, won trophies as previous clubs. And we want to push on. We signed 2 players in January, positions that we needed to strengthen: a left wing back and a number 10, Roman Esse, who actually joined from Millwall, funny enough. And now players are kind of back, and I think if everything goes well in training, will be our strongest squad that we could have so far this season,
Mm-hmm.
going into this game. So yeah, it's looking actually positive for once at Palace.
Well, that's really good, and of course, like I said, I mean, I think last year I thought Palace looked really poor at times.
Yeah,
And it looked like you were flirting with relegation a little bit, but that's been
yeah.
put to bed this season with some really good results. And one of them, the 2-0 win at Old Trafford, that's absolutely. Because, I mean, at the moment, everyone's going to fancy themselves going to Old Trafford against Manchester United. But um, that one was a real statement win that Palace are there, wasn't it? And I mean, um,
It was. It
yeah,
was.
because, yeah.
I mean, they apart from the first 10 to 15 minutes, they pretty much didn't have anything else to trouble us. Dean Henderson only made 2 saves in the whole game, and funny enough, against United in our last 4 games, home and away, we haven't conceded a goal. It's 7-0 on aggregate. So we've had some decent results against them. It was a game which I was looking forward to get 3 points, and we managed to do it. But our problem hasn't been the form away from home. Away from home has actually been fantastic. We're one of the better sides in the league. It's at home we haven't been able to get the results, and that is the reason why this game's a massive test for Palace. Like, can we step up to the plate? Can we actually prove ourselves at home? Because of course, David Moyes coming in at Everton, it's not going to be easy. You lot are up for it. I saw the game against Liverpool as well. The fact that you scored that last minute winner, you'll be excited by that. But maybe were emotions too high? Is there enough rest days? We'll find out on Saturday. But I feel like Everton is our bogey team. Like, we never kind of get decent results. I don't know why. We managed to beat you in FA Cup under Frank Lampard at home, but apart from that, you lot always manage to get a result against us. So we've kind of, you know got some decent results against teams that we've struggled against so far, well, in previous times this season. Now, this is a massive challenge for us to see like how serious are we in terms of like pushing on this season or not.
It used to be for us. It was always West Ham, but now when we're dying for a win, we haven't won in 10 or something like that. I'm going, when do we next play Palace? Because we just seem to be. This season was the same, mate. And
Yeah,
honestly, that's nothing against Palace, because Palace came in and they were sort of with everyone's bogey team, but we just managed to, maybe the last like 10 or so years, we just seem to just turn it on against Palace. I mean, I'm thinking like the Coleman one with the last minute goal. I think it was last minute. The in the yellow kit at Selhurst.
yeah,
Of course, there's the one where we stayed up. The one this season, I think we beat you 3-0 one year as well at Goodison, and
yeah,
it just seems like that Palace is is one of them teams. So for Everton going into it, it's a good time, because we're in a good run of form. You know, we're
yeah,
still unbeaten in our last four now, and and Selhurst is just like, honestly, it's my guilty pleasure watching football at Selhurst Park on the telly. It's just, I think it's one of the best stadiums in the country, because you can talk about all your fantastic big Super Bowl style stadiums, and what's going to host which concert, what's going to host which European Championships or whatever. But look at Selhurst, mate. Like, when it gets going, oh my word, what a place! That little corner behind the goal where
yeah,
they just go
yeah. Just
mental all
singing, yeah.
game, and yeah,
I think it'll be. I think it'll be. The crowd will be up for it on Saturday. As I said, the FA Cup win on Monday night was massive. We've got our big rivals coming up, and also the form has been decent. And it's a game that will be under the lights because of the evening kickoff. And yeah, the Sellers atmosphere. To be fair, as a Palace fan, I do think it hasn't reached the levels that it has in previous seasons this season. Maybe because, as you said, we were struggling at the start of the season, and then we reached a point where it was at the middle ground, thinking, what are we kind of doing? What do we want to achieve? We still need signings. But now that the window is closed, now that we brought in players, I think the crowd will be up for it. Like, the general feeling is like, we're looking forward to the game. We're looking forward to watching Palace play our sellers. So it's now up to us to stand up and to try to end this run. I don't know if it's like a run of form, because I think we have beaten you along the way, but we need to end this bogey terms when it comes to Everton because it just always hurts us. We just even yesterday watching the game, very unfortunate in terms of like Decore and then going out the game. Well, won't be available for this game, I assume. But it's like it's still Everton. They'll still manage to find a way against Palace, and
yeah.
that's the biggest thing that Palace fans will say. Let's see if that actually makes any difference if any of your players missing. But Moyes is a decent appointment. What do you think of him?
Oh, mate. We'll go into a bit more detail about it.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, the last sort of 5 or 6 games, well, the last sort of 4 or 5 games he's had, bar the Villa one and the Bournemouth one. The Villa one, he didn't have any time with the squad. He came in like the day before,
yeah,
and then the Bournemouth one was just Bournemouth had two really good chances and we couldn't take ours, and we went out the cup. But 5 or 6 games ago, this looked like a mismatch, didn't it? We were 16th, 17th, sort of, around the same points as Leicester and Wolves, and he has just transformed the entire feeling around the club. And now we're 3 points behind Palace. I need to check the goal difference, but I know we can go level on points with Palace.
yeah,
We still got
yeah.
-5, so we'd have to win about 4-0, which I can't see happening. But we can go above United and Tottenham and level with Palace if we win this game on Saturday. So Oliver Glasner came in last season or season before, and
Yeah,
I
last
think at
season.
first he looked really, really good, but I think at times there was some moments in games where I was thinking, his lack of Premier League experience did show. Is he still the man? Are Palace fans all in on Oliver Glasner, or is there a bit of frustration there?
No, everyone loves him. Everyone loves him. And to be fair, we even loved him when we didn't win a game for 9 games because we felt like the club done him wrong. In terms of recruitment, we lost Elise, we lost a few players, and we just didn't bring in the right replacement. So Oliver Glasner, Palace fans are more worried about how can we keep Oliver Glasner than to get rid of Oliver Glasner. What he's done with the squad at times, and very limited squad because of injuries and whatever. So has been great, and he understands the fans. He's up for the games. He approaches every game with a winning mentality. There isn't anything much more we can ask from a manager, and I think the club love him as well because he holds the club to a standard which might make them uncomfortable at times talking about transfer policy in the public, but. We know the standard. We know what he wants to do. We know that he wants to win, and so far he has been very good for us. Apart from the start of the season, which he did say, like people use that as excuses, but he did say like we haven't had proper preseason. Mateta came 3 days before the season started. He was at the Olympics. All the England players, we had 4 players representing England. We had 2 players representing Colombia. So they were in their finals. So they came back very late from preseason, and then we signed players late as well. So it was like a very messy start to the season. It's something that we can't do again going into next summer. But right now, as I said, it's like how can we keep Oliver Glasner rather than should we get rid of him? That's the mentality, anyways.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Talk about Everton. This season, it's been an absolute roller coaster. Um, for the blue half of Merseyside, of course, started with Sean Dyche. He wasn't the man whatsoever. One of his only 3 wins all season came against Palace earlier on,
Yeah.
and David Moyes has managed to get 3 in his first 4. So, um, from an outsider looking in, of course, Everton now sneaking up on them teams in mid-table. So, what I mean, you asked me about my thoughts on it before, but what are your thoughts on Everton's last few games and like how David Moyes has done since returning?
I think David Moyes has kind of made Dash look like a bit of a fool because of the amount of goals. Like I don't know, I felt like with Dash there was excuses about the reason why you weren't scoring goals. I think that was the biggest thing. But Moyes comes in and now you can find the net, you can score goals. So I think Moyes at times he gets a very weird reputation, to be fair, because he won a trophy at West Ham as well. And back in the day, at Everton before this tenure, he was very good. He was a class manager. He went to Man United, and his reputation kind of got hurt by that job. But he knows how to win. He's a good tactician. He's a good manager, and he's the pair of hands you need right now in terms of offering you stability and also a hope to look up the table rather than down. Because under Daesh, it felt like it was about how can we stay up, how can we stay up, how can we stay up. Right now, as you said, if you beat us, you're 11 on points with us, and you can start looking at maybe top 10, which sounded crazy like a few months ago because of the position that you were in under Sean Dash. Can you even score 10 goals in the next however months? That was the questions rather than can we finish in the top 10. So I think Moyes suits Everton. He understands the club, he understands the fans, he understands the culture, and I think that's the biggest thing about it. And it's a massive plus. Of course, this season you will stay up, and you're going into a new ground next year, so things are on the up. Now I don't know how long David Moyes will stay at Everton, but I think for now and for maybe next few years, I think he's a solid person to have at a football club. Whilst a football club outside of the pitch stabilizes, because I think there's been a lot wrong with Everton off the field as well as on the field, and I think David Moyes will secure the field issues and he'll make you like a secure club in the Premier League. But for you to grow and get to the next level, you need to solve the issues off the field, and which you are going in the right direction. And now it's like, continue building on that and reach the levels that you lot were once at. I remember, when Paz first got promoted to the Premier League, you had the likes of Lukaku and a few other players, and you were looking at European sports, playing European football, and those were the conversations. So it's kind of crazy to see how Everton have basically folded throughout the years, and now Everton basically need to get to that level. So you have to be patient. It does take time, but I think you're heading in the right direction under Moyes.
Yeah, well, you know what, D. Honestly, the obviously nothing happens overnight, but in terms of what you'd want from a first month and the signs that are there. It's the absolute best that I think we could be in, because we're in really good shape now. I mean, for last week, a few days ago anyway, our director of football came out, did a 10-minute interview and cleared up anything sort of about PSR. Did you get the players you want? And he spoke so openly about it, and it's the first time really he's ever done that, where he's like, it feels like there's a connection between the people who work at the top of the club and the fans.
Well, you need that, though. I feel like you're
Yeah,
missing it.
that's what we've been missing, and of course we're in a new era now with the Friedkin group who've taken over. Mashiri's gone. That era of absolute chaos is over now. And it just feels a bit more stable. And now I'm looking at it. I mean, we signed one player in January on loan. And we would have wanted more, but it's been cleared up since that he said, well, the players are hard to come by in January. The players we want aren't available. Wouldn't come mid-season. I know there was a few players in the Bundesliga that we were looking at. And he said they weren't available. I'm not going to rush and get someone in that isn't going to help the group. And that felt so good, because, I mean, there's one man who played for both that we'll talk about later, Cenk Tosun. And he's sort of he's the epitome of that era where we just sign somebody for the sake of it and waste money. And I would rather us be in this position now where we've a bit of an injury crisis than sign someone who was just going to sit there and do nothing and not offer anything to the club. So I think really it's the first time I felt like there's a cohesive unit that are in charge of the club now. And I think, it was like that the first time under Moyes as well, because, he basically ran the club when he was manager as well. He was in charge of absolutely everything. There was no director of football then. There was no, stuff like that. And, it was his job. He scouted players, he picked them. He came in January and looked at the players that we were about to sign under Deitch, who were basically had done medicals, ready to sign. He said, no, I don't want this player because he's not an Everton player. He doesn't fit the ethos of the club.
Yeah.
And it just shows you, like, who was Sean Dyche signing? Like, for someone to come in and immediately go, why are you signing him? Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a bit like on career mode on FIFA, where, you get the rating of each transfer and it just F every time. Yeah.
Like, though, when it comes to Everton, because you did spend money at times as well, but it was just a bit confusing, because you would spend money and then you'll sack that manager, then you'll bring in another manager who plays a completely different style of football, and it's like, all right, this play's not needed anymore. It was just not run properly. So I think you just need someone who can stabilize the club, and then the recruitment needs to be better, because the money, I don't know how you spent it, but it wasn't good. I mean, you did bring in some good players, but you brought in some weird profiles that doesn't suit every kind of manager. I think you need to build an ethos around the club. Like, this is Everton, this is how we want to play, this is how we want to recruit, because that's what Palace have essentially done, and that's why we haven't really struggled as much transition from one manager to another, because we kind of have a plan. And I felt like Everton bought players for the sake of buying them for large parts under your previous ownership, which hopefully that changes this time around.
I hope so, D. But let's talk about Saturday, of course. Evening kickoff at Selhurst. Palace, always a dangerous side since they've come back up to the Premier League. No one, maybe bar Everton, likes playing Crystal Palace because they just have a go at you. And the fans are fantastic. The stadium's tight. And it's a brilliant place to go. There's a couple of players who've really shone for Palace this season. I remember speaking to you actually in September, and we spoke about the Elise leaving, and we spoke about Eze. Could Eze pick up the mantle of because you said you would have rather lost Eze than Elise.
Yeah.
Elise was the man. Of course, he scored last night in the Champions League. Yeah. Top player now.
Exactly, yeah.
But Eze recently is, starting to pick up the pace, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, he had it. I mean, if you sum up his season in one word, it would be frustrating still. Recently, that's kind of changed, but he just hasn't really got it going this season for Palace. If you look at the season as a whole, and we've needed him. Now, there's different theories. There's theories about, do we have the width? Because Tyrick Mitchell also hasn't been performing at the wing back role, so it's been a bit easier to defend against Eze at times. We didn't have another number 10. Ismail is a decent player, but he's not another 10. He's more of like a player which plays on the right hand side. However, he lacks the spacing behind. So yeah, we've had our theories, and he's had his injuries as well, which of course doesn't help him. But he got rested against Doncaster. Glasner did say that he's going to get a rest because he's had a injury problem, which has been going on for a while. So he should be available for this game. But yeah, recently he's been getting the goals and assists, especially at set pieces. He's been very good as well, and I can't complain when he gets a goal and assist. It's just before at the start of the season, it's just missing chances and chances that you really need to be taking if you want to join the top six club. And it was frustrating. There were questions being asked. And also, there weren't that much interest in Eze in summer, which is kind of surprised the club. But is it really that surprising? People saying, is it really that surprising if he's playing like this now at the start of the season? Is there something that we've missed? However, he's getting back to himself. Maybe that's the turn of form from the team, getting him motivated again. Maybe he's just thinking like, what's going on here? Like, I don't want to be fighting relegation and doing nothing. But now he looks up for it. And I think for this game, we should be seeing a pretty much 100% fit Eze, because he had a nice little rest after the United game, which is, yeah, he's basically 2 weeks off, which is good, And we've brought in a player, Roman Esse, from Millwall, who doesn't start games, but he's come off the bench twice. I think that would be a positive impact to have another player like Eze, who gets on the ball. So yeah, I think Ben Chilwell, which is another one. We'll see how that works out. Could offer something different down the left hand side. But yeah, Eze, he's needed help, but also at times some of his decision making hasn't been to the levels that it should be at as well. So it's a bit of balance between the team and him being at fault.
Yeah, I think. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't like to be the commentator on Saturday with them two playing, Eze
Yeah,
and
but I don't
Esse.
think Esse will be playing. I'll be
Yeah.
surprised. He came off the bench, so I think it'll be Ismail Assar comes back. But yeah, when we did sign Roman Esse, I was thinking the same thing as well. All the Palace fans were like Eze and Esse.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
It's almost a bit like when every year Everton try and sign Everton from Flamengo, and we just
Yeah,
it
yeah,
never seems
yeah.
to work out.
Everton
But
on the ball for Everton.
I'd be absolutely amazing if we ended up doing that. I
Yeah,
honestly just break the bank and give him whatever he wants. Just
yeah, exactly.
bring him in
Bring
so
him in.
everyone can have
Everton.
Everton on the back
He's
of their shirts.
he's made for it.
Uh,
He's literally made for it.
yeah, well, Charlie Alcaraz came in from Flamengo um, in January, and we were all like, should have got Everton back. Um,
Correct.
but there's been a lot of Evertons. There's like, I think there was a Brazilian winger a few years ago. I don't know if it's the same guy, but let's talk a bit about players for Everton. You mentioned there Ben Chilwell, who's obviously signed for Palace. It's on loan until the end of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he's one that we were looking at, and I would have loved on loan till the end of the season
Mm.
because in terms of width, Mikalenko tries his hardest, but he just isn't very good going forward. And at times he doesn't get tight enough to his man. I mean, the Liverpool goal last night, the McAllister one, he doesn't get close enough to Salah, and Salah's got space to whip the ball in, and it's moments like that, isn't it, that lose you games. The Everton injury list at the moment makes for horrid reading. Dwight McNeil, who scored both goals
Yeah.
at Goodison back in September, is out. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who scored the goal at Goodison as well, is out. Odell Mangala, who's on loan from Lyon, who you might remember from his time at Nottingham Forest last season, out. Seamus Coleman, out. I mean, at the minute, Decore obviously suspended. It's at the minute. I want to ask you for an Everton danger man, but besides really Beto,
Yeah.
we don't know if Ndai's going to play. We're waiting on news for that. We're recording this on Thursday, so there's no news yet about Iliman and Dye. But you know, you got to be looking at that, thinking, wow, these are missing some players. Apart, I mean, Beto's banging them in, so we'll have to see what happens with him. But
Pretty
yeah,
much better.
anyone you're looking at that maybe is fit for Saturday, that you're thinking, yeah, they can hurt us.
Pretty much better. I was going to say better. I looked at your injury list beforehand as well, and it's nasty. I'll be surprised if Ndai plays against us because he looked hurt, and I don't know, he looked a bit serious, but maybe it's not because the fact that he had like tears in his eyes as well. So it's like all of that to come back 2 days later, I would be shocked. But hopefully it's nothing serious. But if we exclude him, it has to be better because there isn't anyone else. And that's not me, bad mouth and Everton or anything like that. Just genuinely, he's been scoring goals. He's David Moyes knows how to get the best out of him. His position has been fantastic. Finishing's been on point, and he's been one of those players. Which, of course, I don't watch Everton like you do, but he's been in and around the squad, but it hasn't really always worked out for him. And now he's been given an opportunity, and he's took it well. So I think Beto is the one that we need to look at. It'll be interesting to see how he does against our back three because, of course, we'll be playing three at the back. And then your defenders. I think you got especially Jared Branthwaite. He came against us last time around, and he was very solid at the back. You got Jacob Bryan, who was at Palace before he moved to Lyon, and then after he got sold to Everton, so he'll be up for it in terms of proving Palace wrong, maybe because at the time there was Anderson and Gahey. We did rate him, but he wanted to play first in football, and we just didn't think he was better than Gahey or Anderson, and there was nothing wrong with that. He didn't want to sign a new deal, so he left us. So yeah, I think it's your defense and better that I'm looking at, especially, and that he'll be a massive miss. The Corey will be a miss as well. So um, let's see what actually happens with. Well, I mean, Decore is 100% out, but let's see what happens with Ndiaye because if he's not in the game, I think that boosts our chances even more.
Yeah, Jake O'Brien, honestly, like, I'd run through a brick wall for that man. He's really didn't get a chance, and of course, players who played for both. There's quite an extensive list. Get him in the comments, and I'll read them out at the end of the episode. But he's one of them where he just came in and was given a job to do, and he wanted it. He wanted it more than like the other players who were sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And he came in and we had Tarkowski and Branthwaite, two fantastic centre backs, and David Moyes came in, looked at the team and said, "Wow, you're playing Ashley Young at right back. I mean, Ashley Young's good for his certain things, but not for starting the whole 90 minutes in the Premier League every week."
It's too much.
And he came in and he's like, "You've signed this lad for 20 million from Lyon. He's a young player. He's big. His fitness is good. He's ready to play, but you haven't played him." And he came in, and now he's been playing at right back, which for his size you wouldn't think, but he's so good at passing the ball. That he's 6'6", he's huge. So you wouldn't think he'd have the mobility to get up and down the pitch really, but he's managed to carve himself out a little speck at right back, and he's making the best of the situation he's in because he's not going to start at centre back like he wouldn't have a Palace with Anderson and Gahey. So he's managed to come in and carve out that little right back spot for himself, and I'm so proud of him, mate, because he came in, he had a terrible start to his Everton career. Sean Dyche wouldn't play him for some reason when Kevin Thelwell went to so much trouble to bring him in, and I'm absolutely made up for the lad because he's been to France, he's played there under Lyon, come back to England, and he must have been thinking like, can I play in this league because I can't seem to get a game anywhere. But now he's one of our most important players, and last night he was fantastic again. The man he was marking, Luis Diaz, actually got taken off, and and I'm really, really, really happy with him. I think definitely one of the up points of the David Moyes era is Jake O'Brien, carving out a little space for himself. But score predictions, D, I think this one is going to be really attacking. I wouldn't be surprised if this one's 5-all or something like that.
You reckon?
Do you know what? 6 months ago, I would have said 0-0. But we're so attacking now in the way we do it. I can see Beto bagging another as well. He had a great finish last night. And when we play to his strengths, he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net.
Mm.
He was just brought in, and under Daichi was like, oh, well, let's just fire balls at this guy's head and see if he can head them in. But that's not his game. You know, it's his game is running onto a ball, a good pass, running onto it and putting it in the net first time. And I'm really happy with how he's playing. But it'll be a good one for the neutrals, Mateta and Beto. That's definitely going to be one of the clashes in this game because very similar players, two big strikers, old school is what you probably call them, wouldn't they? They probably would have fitted in well in the 90s. But what are you thinking for Saturday?
I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I don't know. I think with Palace, we don't really concede that many goals away from home. To be fair, it's been last 5 games we haven't conceded a goal. It's just at home we conceded. Yeah, we've conceded a few, but we haven't really, apart from the Arsenal game, we haven't really had that many high scoring games. I think I'm going to go for 1-0 Palace, cautiously, because I do think we've got enough, especially with your injuries. You've got so many injuries. I mean, Dwight McNeil, Calvert-Lewin, and a few other players that you've listed. So I think we've got enough to cause problems. I think defensively, we've actually been decent as of recently. So yeah, I think we could potentially with Ndai, if he misses this game as well, we could potentially keep a clean sheet because I feel like that Merseyside derby took a lot out of you lot emotionally as well as physically. And we played on Monday, so we kind of like rested. We didn't have a massive game like that. So yeah, I think if you consider everything together, I think we can scrape a win. I don't think it's going to be an easy win for Palace.
That's what I was thinking. There might be a bit of a hangover from that game, and that's what I
Yeah,
think benefits Palace.
yeah,
And Dies, mate, Illiman and Dies, just the the best player we've had at Everton probably since Romelu Lukaku.
wow,
In terms of how much I mean, James Rodriguez was unbelievable, but when you talk about Everton players and you look back and you go, who's the ones that sum up the club and are heroes at the club? He's that already. He's only been here for a few months, and he's already just grabbed the whole game by the scruff of the neck. And he's, do you know what he reminds me of? He's so raw, and he doesn't look like a footballer. He's the most unassuming guy. He looks like someone who'd turn up to five-a-side who you'd never met before and have the game of his life, with
mm,
ripped boots and come straight from work and in their work uniform
yeah,
and
he's
comes
a
up with
bodybuilder.
five-a-side. Yeah, he's someone you'd see at goals or playing on the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
AstroTurf, on
yeah,
a Tuesday night,
yeah.
just running rings around everybody. And he just when he plays with freedom, and that's such an amazing thing for Evertonians because we haven't had that. But I mean, if he is injured, it'll be Jack Harrison on. Might be Jack Harrison on Saturday, who
Yeah.
still has been playing okay, but it's you can't underestimate. I mean, I think Illyman and Dye could walk into most teams in this league.
100%.
I'm Beto scoring. I'm gonna go 1-1 or maybe 2-2. I think I can't see Palace losing this one. But you said before about the home form.
Mm.
We did win at Brighton, which you'll be happy about because we
Yeah, yeah,
beat
of course.
Brighton with 10 men. At
Yeah.
we played like 100 minutes in that game,
Mm.
and Mangala went off because we had no substitutes left. So we can do it away from home as well. On Saturday, I think this will be a different type of test. Palace are a lot more physical, a lot more similar to ourselves, probably in the way you guys play. Just those good passes from midfielders, with one focal point up front. So I think maybe 1-1 or 2-2, but I can see this being a pretty good game if from a
Yeah.
neutral point of view, and I think that's probably why it's on TV. Um, should we do our lineup quiz? I mentioned it before. 2016-17, 1-0 to Everton. Seamus Coleman got the goal in the last minute, the 87th minute actually. How much of that team can you name? Because it's a bit of a mismatch of early Premier League Palace, like 2013,
Yeah.
and sort of maybe like the COVID era Palace, where there's players in this team and I'm like, oh, they're Palace, and then there's teams that are going, did he play for them? Yeah, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
that's I can imagine. 16, 17 is funny, but Benteke,
mm-hmm.
Zaha.
No Zaha, no Zaha. I think he might have been
He must be an injury.
injured or something
Yeah,
like that. But
interesting.
yeah,
Punchin.
Punchin did play. Yeah,
Yeah, Kabai.
yeah, and that's a weird. What an absolute baller he was,
Yeah,
mate.
he was. Yeah.
Like,
Kabai.
oh,
Did did Luka Milivojevic play?
no, I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a great player for Palace.
Scott
Every
Dan.
time I watch you, Scott Dan. Yeah, I think he's a Scouser, isn't he? I think Scott Dan.
Yeah. Scott Dan, and then Joel Ward.
Yeah, Joel Ward, of course, at right
Uh,
back, a mainstay
who
in the
was in
Palace.
goal then? Was it Wayne Hennessy potentially?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're doing very, very well, aren't you? Bloody hell, you.
Yeah. I'll be
Yeah,
honest. I'm normally very bad at these kinds
yeah.
of things. Um, was 2016? Was Sacco there?
No, was that Diafra Sacco?
No, Mamadou.
Oh no, Mamadou Sacco. No, it was a different. Um,
Oh, Bakary Sacco.
no, it was a player that is one of them. I didn't even know he played for Palace. Also had a very long spell at West Ham.
Oh, Tompkins, yeah.
Yeah, Tompkins.
Yeah,
Do you know what? Going off, just diverting a bit, talking about West Ham centre backs.
Yeah.
Have you seen that clip of James Collins talking about his time at Palace? Not James Tompkins, sorry, James Collins.
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, look it up, mate. You know, obviously James Collins, the baldy head, ginger beard, like really famous West Ham centre back, had the spell at Palace, didn't he? Towards the end of his career, and he was like, he's spoken to Peter Crouch like quite in depth about it, saying about how disappointed he was. But there's a really interesting story about he actually signed for Villa, before Palace, signed the contract and stuff like that. Went out into his first training session and like done his calf. And he was like, I'm going to be out for 6 months. He signed a loan till the end of the season. He had to like run back in the building, speak to the secretary and be like, have you sent that contract off yet? And she said no. And he went, give me it. And he just ripped it up because he was like, because he'd signed for 6 months and he was going to be out for 6 months. He was like, I wasn't going to sit there and take the money and sit on it. But no, that I think that shows, them.
Yeah.
There's
Tompkins,
people in
liked his time
football.
at Palace, right? Did he say good things?
Tompkins, I think, but this is Collins. Two West Ham.
Yeah, no, Collins,
Yeah, two West Ham centre backs who would have made a decent West Ham team. But so you've got all three English defenders. There's one other. There's one other. I think.
Trick Van Aanholt?
No, not Van Aanholt.
Who was left back around that time? Oh, jeez.
Still playing in the Premier League. One of these.
They're still playing the Premier League.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't be Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka wasn't there, right? He was. He came.
No, Wan-Bissaka. No.
I genuinely, my head had stopped with left back. Schlupp? No.
Yeah, no Schlupp.
Oh, was it?
You got
Schlupp?
it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, he's at Celtic.
You've got it.
Celtic now playing Champions League football.
Yeah, and then there's another one who I think must be retired now. Irish.
Oh, James McCarthy.
Not James MacArthur. No, not James McCarthy. I always get mixed up.
James MacArthur.
James MacArthur was playing, but in defence there was an Irish guy.
In defence, did I not list all the?
It says defender / midfielder.
An Irish guy in defence.
Mm-hmm.
But did I? So it was Tompkins, Joe Ward, Jeffrey Schlupp, and Scott Dan. Those were the defenders. So who on earth played? We're talking about midfielders.
Do you want me to tell you that one, and then you can
Yeah,
have
go on.
one good go at the striker?
Go on.
It was Damien Delaney.
I was thinking about Damo, but I was thinking like, was he playing? Where did he play then? If Tompkins was Tompkins start? Did Tompkins and Scott Dan start?
Tompkins and Scott Dan started, so they must have been the centre backs.
It must have been
Joel Ward.
But Delaney's he's not midfielder. He never played midfield, so he must have played three at the back that game.
Must have. But
Yeah,
Jeffrey
that's weird.
Schlupp would have been.
Like, who
Yeah.
could that be?
And then
But
up front, there's one you'd call him a
Benteke.
Barclaysman. Not Benteke. You've had Benteke. Next to Benteke, another Barclaysman.
Another Barclaysman. Other than Benteke.
You'll kick yourself if you don't get this, D.
My head is actually genuinely stopped. Like, I genuinely can't think right
Yeah.
now. I can't.
He played for Chelsea and Newcastle.
Oh, it can't be Remy.
Yeah.
Did Remy actually start that game? That was one of the
Loic Remy.
appearances of Remy.
Oh, mate. You know Loic Remy.
You barely played for Palace.
Yeah. You know Loic Remy, mate.
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean.
Oh,
But I totally
what a
forgot.
player.
I totally forgot because he barely played it.
What a player in his time at Newcastle. And then he come to Chelsea and he wasn't as good at Chelsea, but he still did bag a few.
Yeah.
It would have been Mourinho he played under. He still did bag a few.
Did he play in this game?
Balassi didn't play. Balassi had signed for us by this point.
Oh, it was that you.
Was Balassi starting for us? No, I think Balassi might have been injured.
Yeah,
He did his ACL in his first season. It was a real shame.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be unreal for us, Balassi, but his injury.
Right for Palace then?
Well, I would have thought it would have been Puncheon, maybe.
Oh, it was, okay, cool. So he played down the left because Zaha was not fit.
I don't know. I think it was Schlupp. I think you're right. I think it was a three-man defence with Schlupp and Delaney either side, maybe. Oh, sorry, with Delaney at centre-back and Joel Ward on the other side.
Okay,
because it's just two centre-mids, maybe Puncheon in the 10 and Benteke and Remy. That's a dangerous... Do you know what? If I take you back to 2013 and I said Benteke and Remy up front, you'd be shaking in your boots, mate.
Exactly.
The bench is full of funny players who, you know them all, but you probably wouldn't guess them. Obviously, goalkeeper on the bench, Palace legend. You'll know that one.
Oh yeah, Junior Speroni.
Yeah. You also had Martin Kelly on the bench.
Okay, yeah.
Former Liverpool.
He was good, yeah. He was good for
Matthew Flamini. Had no idea he played for Palace.
He came from Arsenal.
Joe Ledley.
Okay, yeah.
Looks. I always thought he looked like a rugby player playing football. Andros Townsend, player who played for both clubs. What a player for us Townsend was, mate. And then obviously for you as well.
Right? Yeah. He was
scored that worldie. He only scored worldies, mate. Can you imagine in your head Andros Townsend scoring a tap in? No.
I can't. Do you remember the goal he scored against Man City for Palace?
Oh yeah. Do you know what? He scored that one against. That was obviously the best goal he's ever scored. But he scored a close second for us against Burnley at home I think it was under Benitez, and he scored an absolute worldie from about 30 yards out, and it just curled right on. The keeper was like trying to dive back to get it, and he couldn't. Oh mate, I love Townsend for us. And then he went to Luton, didn't he? And he was another one. He was unlucky with injuries, but every time he played for Everton, he gave his all, and he left when he knew he wasn't at the level required to play Premier League. And I think he's just one of them where it's like just one of the good guys in football who everyone will like. Like, no one hates Andros Townsend, do they? Lee Chung-yong and Sully Kai with two on the bench. And then for Everton, Joel Robles, Funes Mori. Yeah, cover your ears, Everton fans, because this one's good in places and bad. Funes Mori, Williams, Coleman, who got the goal, Mason Holgate, Leighton Baines, Ross Barkley, Gareth Barry, Tom Davies, Romelu Lukaku, and Kevin Morales.
Wow. Yeah,
I tell you what.
Lukaku, what a team. Lukaku.
And then on the bench we had Martin Stecklenburg. This is weird because this is the season where we didn't have a first choice. We had two first choices because Tim Howard had just left and Jordan Pickford hadn't signed yet.
Yeah.
So it was weird, and we were between Robles and Stecklenburg. Jagielka on the bench, Oviedo. Remember Oviedo, D?
Yeah.
Morgan Schneiderlin.
Yeah.
How did he never play for Crystal Palace? Like,
Exactly.
he should have.
Yeah. He should
James
have,
McCarthy, who obviously did play for Palace. I don't
Yeah.
remember him playing for Palace really, but do you know what? He was a great player for us.
It was okay for
He
us.
just
Yeah.
he was a great player for us in his first season.
Yeah.
Really good with Gareth Barry in midfield, but he was unfortunate. He had a really bad ankle, and every few months this ankle would go, and he was so injury prone. Enner Valencia, who got chased around the pitch for Ecuador, and of course now nominated for the Ballon d'Or. Scored the hat-trick in the Europa League final. Ademola Lookman was on the bench for Everton,
Wow.
a young Ademola Lookman. So yeah, that's it. I think you did pretty well there, D.
Yeah, it was alright. Normally my memory's absolutely terrible, but I managed to get it. Yeah, that was fine. That was good going down memory lane.
Yeah, of course. I hope you got your former and former Palace and Everton players. Jake O'Brien's not on this list, but you could have had Marcus Bent, who played in the late 90s for Palace and the mid 2000s for Everton. You could have had Balassi, who's a Palace icon, and then had, unfortunately, a very injury-torrid time at Everton. Andy Johnson, absolute goal scorer, mate. There's obviously the Andy Johnson derby, where he scored against Liverpool. Nigel Martin played for Everton towards the end of his career, but what a goalkeeper. He's widely regarded as one of the best goalkeepers Everton have ever had. Everyone talks about him, saying we wish we could have had him a bit younger. James McCarthy, Thomas Myra, Carlo Nash. You could have had Cenk Tosun, obviously. I gave you that one earlier. Andros Townsend, James Vaughan, the youngest goal scorer, I think, in Everton's history. And on the women's side, you could have had Katrina Vehe. So, quite a few. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a good game on Saturday, D. But thank you so much for coming on again. I appreciate that we've gone a bit longer, but we always gab a lot, don't we, about these?
Yeah, it's always good catching up with you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. And all the best for the rest of the season, apart from Saturday.
Yeah. Valentine's Day tomorrow, and there'll be no love lost on Saturdays.
Yeah, 100%.
I always have to get a bit of a partridge one at the end, but all right, well, thank you so much. Make sure, of course, you get your score predictions in the comments section down below. Go check out Back of the Nest. They're absolute quality, lads. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe to the Toffee Blues, and I'll see you in the next one.